Welcome back, fellow jazz bums. Welcome to episode 11. We are going to get into our top 5 favorite tenor sax players. Please remember to comment. Let us know what you think about our selections. Let us know which 5 are your top favorites. The tenor saxophone player is a newer instrument when it comes to instrument creation. So we are going to link to the history of the tenor saxophone below. We encourage everybody to check that out. It's an interesting history. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Felipe to kick us off.
Hey, Mike, Chris, thanks everybody for stopping by. So yeah, I think it's an interesting instrument, probably like the sacred instrument, whatever defines jazz or people immediately relate to jazz is the saxophone, right? And I think mostly blame it on Coltrane and Charlie Parker. They made this instrument such an icon, and which is very important. So to me, it's going to be hard to pick 5, I think, for all of you and anybody. So I'll just try to pick the ones that I listen to the most, that I related to the most. And I hope everybody else always also have their suggestions, opinions. Please drop it in the comments. I think this will be very, very important for us to even like compile and go after more titles. So my first one is one of the first. Was one of the big influences on Miles. I'm going to talk about Miles a lot, but this guy, I mean, I think that's where Miles got his tone from. He kind of incorporated his elements into his trumpet playing, and this is the only one I'm only going to show one record because that's very important, sentimental to me, and I really love it. It's a Riverside, Coleman Hawkins.
Oh yeah,
right. The Hawk flies high. I think Coleman, he actually imprinted this tone, this soulfulness, this melody, this mellow bass sound, warm approach to the tenor sax. And it's probably, I think, yeah, exactly. I think his style is what defined an instrument, and it's probably one of the epitomes of jazz. One of the first, the early, the greatest, and everybody should listen to this. If you don't have anything Coleman Hawkins, that's one to start. And I think for anybody to start a jazz trip, voyage, that's a good starter, and there's a record that kind of defines the instrument, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just looking about on Wikipedia, and there's a quote there that says that there were some tenor players before him, but the instrument was not acknowledged as a jazz horn before Coleman Hawkins. So that kind of says it all. Jesus.
Yeah. He was quintessential. He was probably the greatest in terms of imprinting something, giving an identity to the instrument, and incorporating into a genre in the style, and making this instrument the style. I think it's very hard to see a band with no saxophone.
Yeah, you can hear his influence in Ike Quebec and a lot of other tenor players as well.
Yeah, he played with Fletcher Henderson's orchestra early on. That's cool.
All right, well, that was a great artist to start off with.
That is a great artist to start off with.
Yeah.
I'm going to start. This is my number 5, and it may seem low, but I mean, we're talking top 5 tenor sax jazz players. And I honestly just want to get this guy out of the gate, and I feel like he's a top 5 player for sure. We're talking about the great Wayne Shorter. So this is his first lead record when he was at VJ, which is a Chicago-based label. He met Lee Morgan there. He went over to Blue Note shortly after, and he played with the Messengers. He also put out his own stuff too, like Night Dreamer, I think, was his first Blue Note. So he was a jazz messenger, and then his career just goes off. I mean, he plays on later Blue Note stuff with McCoy Tyner. This is a great one, and he's on Impulse with Freddie Hubbard, The Body and the Soul. It's a great one, and then of course he joins Miles's second great quintet, and he is a major influence on the compositions there. So, great composer, great tenor sax player. And that is my number 5.
Yeah, I mean he's an absolute legend for sure. I didn't pick him in my top 5, but he could be number 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He also, he wasn't on my list, but I thought when I was thinking about it, I was like, the records you showed, I'm sure Felipe will have some great ones. And then you go into like Weather Report in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just all over the place and still with us. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Start.
Candid just put out a live record with him.
Are you going to get that?
Who else is on that?
I think
I wasn't planning on getting it, but I don't think
there's even vocals on that record, right?
Yeah, I think so. So my number 5 is a guy that I've gotten into recently. Like for me, this top 5 is my top 5 today. You know what I mean? So that's why Wayne Shorter's not on my list because I'm not listening to his stuff as much right now. But so my guy that I picked for 5 is Clifford Jordan. And I'm gonna start with this record. Now I don't have some of the awesome records y'all have of his, like Cliffcraft and the Blue Note stuff, but this is a good one he did on Jazzland with Kenny Dorham and Cedar Walton. He played with a lot over the years. So this is kind of my representation of kind of his mid-career, like in the early '60s. He also played with Horace Silver, like on Songs of My Father. What was it? Maybe I don't know which. Well, he played on some of the Horace Silver Quintet Blue Note stuff. Had his own stuff on Blue Note, so I really like this one. And then later, what I've gotten into, I've showed some of these records on the stream before, but this Clifford Jordan and the Magic Triangle and Steeplechase, this is really good. So it's again with him and Cedar Walton, and then Sam Jones and Billy Higgins. Love this one. And then another recent one I got is this Beehive, which I've been talking about. So, and here he's with Jackie Ballard and then Vernel Fournier from Ahmad Jamal's trio. But yeah, I mean, he's freaking great. Like, I don't know. He seems like he just goes from like hard bop to avant-garde and can just play anything.
Yeah.
His tone so just smooth and warm and sincere that it just works.
You know what's cool? One thing that's cool about the record you just showed from Beehive is Red Rodney is on that, and he's a trumpet player, and he has a record on Argo that I'm looking for right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's pretty good trumpet player.
But yeah, Jackie Bard's on that. He's really good too. But I don't know. He's a Chicago guy. That's one of this record's called Dr. Chicago. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I am going to pick him, but I have this twofer, and on it has this Cliff Jordan, John Gilmore, and it says blowing in from Chicago.
Nice. Yeah.
So this was an early one. I think it's
that's an amazing record. It's
1549. So it's probably like 58 Blue Note, something like that.
Yeah. And a lot of his stuff's really expensive too, but some of it has decent reissues like that Jazzland. I've got an OJC reissue, which sounds really good. So that's my number 5.
Nice. All right, Felipe, number 4.
All right, so let's go number 4. I'm actually going alphabetically.
Okay.
So I'm going to the next one, and I'm going alphabetically. I mean, this guy played any label, and I got his top 3, perhaps, at least on Blue Note.
Oh, cool. Hank Mobley.
That's Hank Mobley, right? So Workout. If you just want to get 3 records, Blue Note, 60, 61. Roll Call.
Nice.
And of course, the magnificent So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dig This is like the greatest song on that, right? Isn't that right? It's the third track on side 1.
This I Dig of You. Yeah, the second track.
Oh, second track.
Oh, the third is Dig This. Sorry. This I Dig of You and then Dig This.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Mike. So Hank Mobley from an early age, he used to play piano. He got sick. He got stuck at home. One of his family members bought him a saxophone. Then he started practicing. And although he was accepted to school, he couldn't afford. So he started studying by himself. And that's it. And then he goes to New York from New Jersey. He was born in Carolina, then moved to New Jersey, grew up there. And then in New York, he starts playing mostly with the Messengers. He's introduced To the Messengers, he plays a lot. He's in many Or Silver records, many. Um, he records for Prestige. He records for Savoy. Um, but but then
Felipe,
I think Blue Note. Sorry.
how would you describe his tone?
Uh, it's not soft like Quebec kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
Or
think
Hawkins, right?
yeah, or Coleman Hawkins, this type of style. I think he's more punchy, but he knows how to go slow when he needs. Even like a Soul Station. Soul Station, you might think, is a very soft, easy listening record. It's not. Even like Roll Call. Roll Call is very raw, very in your face, but it has a tone to it. It is. You can actually listen to relax to it. But I mean, it always like he's very intense drumming. Art Blakey, he plays with Art Blakey most of his sessions. So these records, they have a punch. They have an identity. They're in your face. But Hank Mobley also can have a softer side when he wants to, when he needs to.
Yeah, I feel like Hank Mobley is just like the hard bop saxophone player almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Horace Silver, the Jazz Messenger, a Jazz Message by Horace Silver, is
Mhm.
actually considered the earliest, if not the first, hard bop record.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, he was in Horace Silver's band, and then Clifford Jordan replaced him.
Yeah.
They swapped with Max Roach actually.
Yeah.
Him and Horace Silver like swapped tenor players for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Those are great records. I love Soul Station. I've got
Yeah.
the MMJ of that. It's one of the best sounding records in my collection. It's really
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Same thing
What do you
here.
think about Mobley, Mike?
I mean, Soul Station is a great record. I put it up there with like Cool Struttin' in terms of like that classic Blue Note hard bop vibe,
Mm-hmm.
like from that time. They're just classic records.
Yeah.
Poppin's
That's
another great one too. That Blue
Yeah.
Note's really good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's an amazing cover as well. Everything here is just screams perfection. And another record from his 60s, sorry, mid 60s, 63, No Room for Squares, which is also a great one, was the first record, Lee Morgan's comeback. When he came back from addiction, when he was recovering, he went back to New York. Was so he recorded two records, Evolution and No Room for Squares, before he did Signwriter.
I like the Mobley's Message records too on Prestige a lot.
Yes.
oh,
And
and the Savoy Message.
Message number 2, yeah, on Savoy, yeah.
Yeah, those are really good records.
Yes.
And then the one I was just looking at was Tenor Conclave. He plays on that one too. That was really good.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I guess he started kind of early with Prestige and Savoy, and then moved to Blue Note. Did he
Mhm.
like progress after Blue Note to another label, or
No, he actually stopped recording in the mid 70s till his
Okay.
death in 86. He
got
gave
it?
some scarce interviews here and there. He became homeless. He didn't have a very nice end of his life. So
I
he
think
stopped playing because his lungs, he had a lung cancer. His lungs were gone.
I think he had a record on Muse, and it may have been a different label, but I think Muse at some point acquired a few
Mhm.
labels,
Could be.
and people say that it sounds different than the rest of his other stuff, and that it almost sounds like he's angry, and that's never really an emotion you hear from his tone, but that he was kind of bitter, towards the end of his recording career.
Yeah.
And he recorded a bunch of records though from 55 to 58. Like
Yes.
those ones you're talking about, right? And then the Jazz Messages of Hank Mobley was on Savoy, and then that was in 56, and then he did Mobley's Message, Mobley's Second Message, all in 56 at Prestige, and then went back to Savoy for Jazz Messages number 2. It's all about his message, man.
Yeah.
56 and 57
Yeah.
apparently.
I think to be a jazz musician, you have to have a record called The Message.
Apparently. And then he just did a crap ton of records in 57, like 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, like 6 records at Blue Note in 57.
Yeah, I mean, and his addiction also played a big role in his career. Late 50s, early 60s. I mean, Miles kicked him out of the band. The Messengers also. He was very unreliable. He wouldn't show up. And let's not forget, he also played on "Someday My Prince Will Come."
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
he was momentarily Miles when Miles was in that hiatus, figuring out who will be the next sax player.
A lot of stuff with Blakey, like you said. A lot of stuff with Donald Byrd.
Yeah,
Very prolific on Blue Note, though. I had no idea. I'm just looking at his discography. I had no idea
it's
he didn't
ridiculous.
have any Blue Note records. He's probably got 20, 25 Blue Notes. Well,
Yeah. I think it was just sitting around the studio, and every day someone showed up there. Oh, they have a sax player. Let's just get him.
something, man. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Great pick.
Number 4, I have 2 records to show, and there is a Riverside record that I think there are 2 Riverside records I want to get from him, but they're just hard to get. But this is Johnny Griffin, the Little Giant. Giving him a shout out. He's just a killer hard bopper, and he I don't know, has a great tone. It's assertive, it's quick. He's a great player. So he has a bunch on Blue Note. Or I don't know, a bunch. I think he has 2 or 3 at least that I can think of. There's one where it has an Andy Warhol cover, and it's like him wearing his like classic.
I think the exact same Hawaiian shirt, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think he has another one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Blowin'. Oh, yeah. So I have this twofer that I just showed. The other record on this is Blowin' Session.
Yeah.
And this is a great twofer, by the way, because this one, record 1 is Blowin' Session, and record 2 is the Blowin' In from Chicago with Cliff Jordan and John Gilmore from Sun Ra's group. And these are all analog, and these are one of the twofers where it's like literally just 2 albums.
That's my favorite kind of twofer, man.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, highly recommend this one. Yeah, I think the record I want on Riverside, it's called like The Little Giant. It's like black and red, and then I think he has another one too that I wouldn't mind. But yeah, he's a great player. He's from that like classic period. This is Blue Note 1533, and so he's my number 4.
Cool. Great
That's
pick.
awesome. Yeah, I was just looking him up. He played with Lionel Hampton's big band early on, like in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. Went to the Army.
Yeah.
He was in the Messengers for a little while. Looks
I
like.
remember the first time listening to this record is quite impressive.
Yeah, that introducing Johnny Griffin record. Yeah, that's a classic series, right?
I think it's BN80.
Okay, that thing's nuts. I remember when we all got that record and freaked out over it.
That's amazing.
It sounds so good. I'm just looking at. I mean, he has a big old catalog too, all the way up into the 2000s. Wow. No one's gonna have this guy on any list, probably. That's okay. I'm obsessed with him right now, so he's on my list. So, talking about Gato Barbieri from Argentina. I've been talking about him constantly. I'm gonna get tired of it probably, but it's okay. So this is a comp on Flying Dutchman. He had a bunch of stuff on Flying Dutchman kind of earlier in his career, and so he is a free jazz sax player for sure, but he combines his sax playing with like Latin sounds from all over South America. And so all of his records have the free jazz element, but then they also have like this Latin groove behind them, which just kind of makes it work for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, he plays really harshly at times too, though. I mean, he squawks on his horn, but for some reason it just works for me. So that one's really cool. Another one I've been listening to lately, I think I talked about on the stream this week, is this Impulse. So he did 3 of these, I think 3 or 4 of these for Impulse. And this one is literally just him and a bunch of Latin musicians that are playing a bunch of interesting instruments that are not, traditional jazz instruments anyway. So like, let's see if I can find some of them. There's a guy playing Indian harp. I don't even know what that is. A guy playing charango. A guy playing, just all these instruments I've never really heard of. They're all like from South America, like guitar like instruments, and different kinds of percussion instruments. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wanted to show, I listened to for the first time today, and it's freaking awesome. It's this record with Don Cherry, Felipe. It's actually really good. So this one's on Inner City, but it was originally released on Durham, I think, out of Italy, and it's called Togetherness, right? So this whole record is just 5 different movements from this one thing that Don Cherry came up with. So it's originally a Don Cherry record, but When they reissued it with both of them because he was starting to get famous. He did like the Last Tango in Paris soundtrack. He's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But so I know I'm rambling a little bit. The cool thing about this record was he actually left Argentina and left South America because he didn't feel like anybody could challenge him, like musically, anymore. Right? Like, so he went to Europe and he met Don Cherry, and they just kind of were both weirdos and got along and made some cool stuff. So yeah, that's my number 4, man.
So where does his nickname come from, Chris? Did you ever look it up?
I don't know. What do you mean? What nickname? Gato or?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, I do not have any idea where that came from.
It's funny because Gato means cat.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. The funny thing is, the sax player from the Muppets?
Mm-hmm.
That's made after him.
Huh.
Yeah, they made that to mimic him. So I always thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, he's got all that stuff on Flying Dutchman I want to get. I want to get the rest of his Impulse stuff. I just want to get as many of his records as I can so I can listen to the whole thing and kind of take it in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can do a big boring video series about it that no one will watch. It'd be great.
I'd love that. I don't know his stuff, so that'd be cool.
It's pretty neat, man. It's really just the whole like Latin jazz with free jazz mixed together really works out pretty interestingly.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Pretty cool.
All right, Felipe, we are number 3.
When it came up with the team, that was the first name that came to my mind. It had to be here. You guys probably know who he is. And if Impulse was the house that Train built, Blue Note is a little bit of the house that he helped to build. And he was very prolific in the 40s. He had a kind of stop in the 50s for 2 reasons. First, addiction, of course, heroin. Second, he was a big bands guy. So big bands were done in the 50s. And he had a comeback in the late 50s, early 60s, which to me is like my favorite production. And he has a tone. I think even like more Coleman Hawkins, he brought it to a next level. And Ike.
Yes, we knew it. Nice.
It had to be him.
Yes.
So Ike Quebec, as I said, that's a little bit of a summary of his story. He has many early recordings and Blue Notes in the 40s, some 78, some singles, but starting in 60, 61, and actually most of the stuff was recorded those from between 60 and 62. They started being released like 63, 64, 65. They were not immediately released because Blue Note didn't know exactly what to do with them. But then started coming out, and there's 2 LT series. I didn't pull them out, but they're also as great as the regular releases. So this is Heavy Soul. That's Liberty Pressing. Amazing. With the Freddie Roach, Milt Hinton, Al Harwood. This is pretty cool actually. One of his first with Grant Green. So Blue and Sentimental. That's the AP 45. He has Grant Green, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe. The cool thing is he also plays piano here. If I'm not mistaken, 3 tracks. He kind of solos along Grant Green. They kind of go like, playing against each other. He was a piano player actually, also. This one is even more interesting. Easy Living.
I don't know if I've even seen that before.
That's the Music Matters pressing. It's amazing. It has Benny Green, Tarantine, Sonny Clark, Milt Hinton, and Art Blakey.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So Benny Green is trombone, and who else is on that?
Sonny Tarantine, actually.
Oh, so tenor.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, 2 tenors. This is a great record. If you find any pressing, get it. Any pressing. And his last recording, of course, just Mike showed. Soul Samba.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's the New York. That's the OG.
Nice. So Mike, you have some of his records. What does he sound like?
He sounds very, I always describe, like, I think like one like perfect example, like quintessential example, is the first track on it might as well be Spring. It's the record with the green cover, and I've said this before, but like he comes in so low and slow that I had to check to make sure the speed was correct on my turntable, because I've never heard anybody sound like that. And he has, in addition to that, like his tone is breathy. Like you can hear his breath in his tone, and so it's not like clean and perfect, and it's just different. And other tenors sound like that too, but he really does it exceptionally. So yeah,
Very nice.
Yeah. There's something that's just some warmth, and it's hard to explain. I mean, if you listen to it, you know it's him. No matter if someone else is trying to emulate that, but you know if it's him or not. It's just impressive.
Yeah, I need to get some of his records. I need them to come out in an affordable format, though. Which hopefully that'll happen. Wait, was there any?
the classic
Any
series.
records in the classic series?
Yeah,
Was it one?
they announced the first one. I think you showed Felipe.
Heavy Soul, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that'll be nice to get.
Heavy Soul was his first comeback record, and I think he died. Yeah, he died kind of young in the 70s.
Yeah, he was 44.
Yeah,
I think it was in the 60s. I was just looking at his thing. Let me bring it up.
it was in the 60s, right? 64.
Yeah, he died at 63. He was only 44. So I mean, he was right in the middle of his comeback, and then he just kind of died.
Yeah, and he
And
was doing great stuff.
he's on that Grant Green Tone Poet that just got restocked.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. Is it
Born to be Blue?
Born to be Blue? Yeah.
He's on that, and he's on the Latin bit as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at those, I think in the 60, 61, I mean, there's a big interchange between him and Grant Green in many records. Yeah.
That's a good combo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They go along really well. And speaking of sax, that Genesis, Elvin Jones, has 3 saxophone players.
I thought you said speaking of sex. I was like, oh, we're taking this in a totally new direction.
That's a great one. Recommended saxophone. Yeah.
I've streamed that before. It's it sounds like from what I remember, it sounds like a little spiritual almost.
Yeah.
Like there's elements of that.
Yeah.
So my number 3 has already been mentioned, but I'll quickly go through. This one is Starting Time, Clifford Jordan.
Nice.
Ooh.
I mean, look at that quintet. Cliff Jordan, Kenny Dorham, Cedar Walton, Wilbur Ware, and Albert Heath. It's a killer one. Quintet on Jazzland.
That's the same one I have, right?
Yeah, it's on this
Nice.
kind of burgundy Orpheum label.
Mhm.
Sounds excellent. Highly recommend. And then this is a quartet with just him on tenor. Who else is on this? Cedar Walton piano, Teddy Smith bass, and JC Moses drums. And this is really good. And I think this was like the last lead session he recorded for a small group for a while. And then I think he went and did some more big band stuff after this.
I'll tell you, him and Cedar Walton were just connected at the hip apparently for decades.
I do want to get those Cliff Jordan steeplechase though.
Yeah, sure.
Those look cool.
Yeah.
It's very good.
And then the last one I have here is the Blue Note 1582. This is great. So Art Farmer trumpet, Cliff Jordan tenor sax, Sonny Clark piano, George Tucker bass, and Lewis Hayes drums.
That's pretty good, man.
Great lineup. And he has great sideman work. Like I have there's a Jazzland Lee Morgan, the one that VMP put out. He's a tenor on that.
Yep.
And he's great. Great player. So he took my number 3 spot.
That's awesome, man. He played on so much stuff, like some of the people he was sideman with, you know? I mean, Paul Chambers, Sonny Clark, Eric Dolphy. See, that's the cool thing. I was talking earlier, he could play just hard bop or free jazz. He goes from Art Farmer to Eric Dolphy and Richard Davis. Played with Dizzy Gillespie. He was on an Andrew Hill record. Mingus,
Yeah.
Lee Morgan, like you said.
Well, his career, I mean, his work really goes from like that Blue Note to that Mystic Triangle. Is it Mystic Triangle? Is that what it's called?
Magic Triangle is that one.
Magic
Yeah.
Triangle.
Magic
Like
Triangle, yeah.
that is a pretty wide like style.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean there's 3 of those. I'm just looking at his literal discography. He's got those three on Steeplechase. So
Oh, and he also has that one. It's is it Pearls or Beads? It's on Strata East.
Yeah.
Last
With the
Beat
circle.
Games.
That's big.
Yeah.
Oh, Last Beat Games. Yes, that's
Yeah.
supposed to be amazing. I don't have that. I need to get it.
I don't
think
either.
it's time to reissue that.
They reissue.
That are insane.
Yeah, they did reissue it, but it's a 2 LP. It's like $60. I think Acoustic Sounds has it in stock.
Mm.
If anybody's
I'll have to
interested.
go buy that then because I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
So my third one, and the top 3 is kind of a tough order. I mean, you could put any one of these as my favorite probably, but my third one is Joe Henderson. Just love Joe Henderson. This is a Blue Note record of his. It's my favorite Blue Note record of his for sure. Inner Urge. This is one of my few Music Matters jazz records. Yeah, this one's really cool. I mean, the thing for me about Joe Henderson is he plays anything and it sounds good to you, right?
Yeah.
Like he plays straight ahead stuff and it sounds amazing. He plays kind of out there avant-garde stuff and it sounds amazing. It doesn't hurt your ears. I mean, this one isn't like the most straight ahead record at all, right? Like this old Blue Note of his, but it's just killer. I mean, I'm trying to remember who else on this one. Let me see if I can tell you. So it's Joe Henderson, McCoy Tyner, Bob Crenshaw on bass, and Elvin Jones on drums. Okay. That's insane, right? Like, because I think all 3 of these records I'm going to show you are quartet records. Here's my other one that's one of my favorites of his, The Elements. This one's pretty weird. I mean, I love it, though. It's got Alice Coltrane on it and Charlie Hayden. So, it's crazy if he's on it, right?
Yeah. I need more Charlie Hayden stuff.
And Michael White. I don't know those other 2 guys, but so this is actually a quintet, but I think 2 of the guys, one of the guys plays violin. So
is that a Jazz Dispensary release?
yes, it is. Yeah, this is a great one. Yeah, I paid $30 for this at Waterloo Records in Austin. I just happened to find it down there. Amazing record. I mean, we've been talking about Alice Coltrane a lot recently too, and she plays on this one, so good. And then my last Joe Henderson I wanted to show is an MPS record that we've talked about recently, but everyone should get this. Mirror Mirror.
Oh yeah.
Like this record is just kind of surprised everybody. I think that didn't know about it anyway when it came out a couple of years ago on MPS. But it's Joe Henderson, Chick Corea, Ron Carter, and Billy Higgins. And it's just really beautiful record. It's not. It's actually more. Think about it, it's actually like more traditional sounding than the other ones I've been showing for sure. But
Right.
really, really good.
Is that Ron Carter sitting on the ground?
Yep. Yep. It's a great crew, right? Billy Higgins, Ron Carter, Chick Corea.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe's my number 3.
Yeah, that is a great crew. Chick Corea, Billy Higgins, and Ron Carter.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
What do y'all think? What do y'all think about Joe Henderson?
It wasn't the very first jazz musician that I learned about when I got aware of jazz in my teens.
Really?
Late in his career, I think I shared with you guys that Jobim concert in Brazil, right? With when Herbie Hancock was the host. I mean, it's the concert I suggest you might to listen to during your airplane trip.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was a celebration of Jobim, and I mean Herbie. Just to have an idea, Herbie was the MC of the whole thing, and everybody played there. And during those years, they jazz festivals were quite popular. They're going really big in Brazil. They got a good sponsor. And Joe Henderson, I remember this year was Joe Henderson went there, and T.S. Monk was also playing there. But I remember seeing Joe Henderson's live performance. It was 12, 13. And that had such a big impact. And he gave some interviews to TV. And I said, man, that's such a cool guy. He plays so nicely. And I never forgot about him. I never forgot his name. And I think one of the early tone posts that I got were his records.
Yeah. I pulled up his discography. It's his Blue Note records are awesome.
Yeah, right.
Just page 1. So Kenny Dorn, McCoy Tyner. Butch Warren, Pete LaRocca. Our Thing with Andrew Hill.
Yeah.
In and Out with Kenny Dorham again. It's the same group as that first one. Inner Urge with Elton Jones. And then Mode for Joe has Lee Morgan and Curtis Fuller and Bobby Hutcherson. Cedar Walton, Ron Carter, Joe Chambers.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then I've seen Andy from Next Play Records. He clued me on to Tetragon, which is a Milestone one, which is really cool.
One is amazing. I have Power to the People, which Mirror, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And the Black Narcissus as well.
And that only gets you to like the late 60s, early 70s.
Early 70s, yes. And don't forget those two tone poets. They are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to mention those in the 80s. The State of the Tenor, Volume 1 and 2. Yeah, those are great. I mean, he had a bunch of Blue Note stuff. Milestone was huge, and then he did a bunch of stuff on Verve. Like up into the 90s, even he did some stuff on Verve. And then Sideman, he played with a ton of people. And it's interesting, right? Because he can play with Kenny Burrell. He can then play with Roy Ayers, which is a total free jazz guy. Richard Davis, just anybody. That's one of the things I liked about him was his versatility.
And check this out. So Sideman work, he's on Uno Mas with Kenny Dorham. He's in Andrew Hill Blackfire, Grant Green Idle Moments.
Oh, he's everywhere,
yeah. He's on Andrew Hill Departure.
Yeah, everybody.
The Rump Roller, Lee Morgan, Unity, Larry Young. Yeah, he's on a lot of stuff.
On the Sidewinder.
Yeah.
Sidewinder, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
He's on Songs for My Father, Horace Silver. Okay.
He did a lot of stuff with Kenny Dorham, though, right? And Kenny Dorham was in that Horace Silver quintet then.
Yeah. I was listening to Live at the Bohemia on my flight, and Kenny Dorham does the same quote that Lee Morgan does on Moanin' on the first track. It's like dun 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 dun. So I'm like, I need to get this record because I know there's an Argo record by like I forget the name of the group. It's like the LCT plus 3 or whatever, and the trumpet player on that does that quote too. So I want to get like everybody who quotes that and then do a video on it.
That'd be awesome. Mike, Joe Henderson plays on Red Clay. The record you just got.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I just got that right here. Boom. In arm's reach. This is from yesterday. This is a 1970 Van Gelder.
Very nice. All right. Well, it's Felipe. It's time for your number 2.
So this guy could not be left behind as well. So I'm going to show a few records from his different labels. Although he's my number 2, I'm going to show Volume 1.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a White Bee, Van Gelder. I mean, I just love Sonny Rollins. I mean, everything he does. I have no reservations against any of his records. This is Volume 1 on Blue Note. It's Donna Bird, Sonny Rollins, Wynton Kelly, Gene Ramney on bass, and Max Roach on drums. Iconic cover. It's upside down. That's a BLP. That's 1542 in the 1500 series. That is not electronically rechanneled, so sounds pretty decent. And I think as one of his Blue Note titles, that's a nice one to show.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Sonny. He's my number 2 too, so we can just talk about him more.
Yeah.
So what other records do you want to show, Felipe, from Sonny?
So now I have a Miles record. I had to show a Miles record again. Just for curiosity, that's Beck's Groove. So Sonny's right here, first name.
Yep.
Right, that's the Analog Productions reissue.
Yeah, that's a great
What I think is really cool is that, there are 2 versions of audio. The one on Miles' record and the one on Sonny's record, right? That's the Miles record. That's the first recording, actually.
All right.
And by reading Miles' book, Miles says in this session, they needed to get stuff to put in. And then he was like, Sonny, get us something. He goes into the back of the house, the bathroom, whatever. He locks himself in for 10 minutes and comes back with audio, and then they just start playing. It was that quick and that ridiculous that this song came out. And you see, it's a mixed bag here. Or Silver, Kenny Clark, Monk. I mean, it's Miles again, picking the right place for the right tracks. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a great, it's a fantastic record. I love that record.
it's very, very well
And
designed.
side one on that, I think they do 2 takes of Bags Groove,
Yeah.
which is just a killer record track.
So now moving to contemporary, I mean, Sonny has a lot of great stuff for contemporary, but that's my favorite. First because it's an OG. Second because it sounds phenomenal. The cover is badass. Everything about this record exhales perfection, which is Way Out West,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. That's the yellow right there.
Apparently, I've lost my Sonny record though. Over there.
I absolutely love this record. Every once in a while, I go back to it and listen because it's just. I mean, look at this cover, right?
Yeah, that's one of the ones I picked too.
It is just great. Let me just
This
check
is just
it.
a modern OJC. It sounds great too.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
And isn't the story of that he went out there and like they recorded that session like late night, like one night?
maybe
Mhm.
so.
I think
It's
yeah,
a trio, though. We were talking about this before the show. It's a trio, which is interesting. A sax trio.
It's a
yeah.
piano.
Who are the other two guys?
No piano. So just chatting with Chris about it, Mike. So this trio has no pianos, bass, drums, and sax,
Mm-hmm.
and Sonny Edge was a big influence Ornette because Ornette also played no piano.
Hmm.
In his
Who's
kit.
on that one? Is it
Oh,
Ray
that's
Brown?
right. Yeah, wasn't Sonny like really experimenting without a piano on a few
Yeah.
records?
Yeah. And I mean, Sonny had all this like experimentations. He would stop and he would rethink and redo and take new approaches. So next cool record I'd like to show up by Sonny. So he was in the Miles Quintet at some point. He was playing Miles, but and at some point he was playing along with Coltrane. Miles has both playing, but when they're either live or even in the studio, according to Miles, okay, he Sonny Rollins said when Coltrane came back from his heroin treatment. He stopped using. He came back in a good shape and playing well. That made Sonny Rollins kind of okay, guys. I got to stop and rethink. That's when he went under the bridge.
Right.
And then after that, he re-emerged with his RCA production. You just showed one of his RCA records, and that's the one that's actually called The Bridge,
Yes.
which is amazing records. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think that's a second press on the black RCA, and
I've got that one too. It's good.
yeah, this
So,
one is
so Sonny took a hiatus because of Coltrane.
yeah. According to Miles, he was so disturbed in a good way. Said, "Man, this guy plays so well. I got to stop and learn how to play again because what he's doing is just out of this world."
Yeah, we just that he was a good player. It was just the stuff he was doing, right? Like, hey, he was moving the music forward and all that. And
Yes,
it's like, what the
exactly.
fuck am I doing?
Yeah, and he came back like amazing from his break, right?
He did. I mean, he did that again later in life too. He took a hiatus for a
Yeah.
couple of years.
I think he took one or two more stops to kind of rethink and and he's been through so much, right? And to kudos to him, he's still alive,
Oh, yeah.
And
This is a. I wasn't going to show this one, but Monk. I'm reading that Monk biography. He was obsessed with Sonny Rollins.
Mhm.
He always wanted to play with him, and they didn't get to play together that much. This was a comp from like 3 different sessions from 1953 to 54 that they did together. Because making a Monk record was impossible, and it took forever because he was Monk. He did all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And then I'm gonna go ahead and show my other ones too, since we're talking about Sonny Rollins. Here's my number 2 as well. Then we go to you, Mike, and of course my favorite, maybe favorite jazz record ever, Saxophone Colossus. Right? I mean, this record is just crazy with Tommy Flanagan, Dougie Watkins, and Max Roach. Super badass. And this one's not as good, but it's still really good.
Yeah. So Chris, curiosity, Tenor Menace, the title track is the only track where he shares with Coltrane.
Correct.
This is only recording with Coltrane.
Yeah, one's got Paul Chambers and Philly Joe on it. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy good.
yeah. And one more Sonny Rollins, which I acquired recently, which I think is everybody should have this record.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
1581, live at the Village Vanguard. That's the New York pressing. Amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to have that just to hear him live at a show like that. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, it's badass. This is an RVG, but it's not the first press because of course 1581 has to be a 50s record. So New York is 60s.
Yeah,
But still,
I mean, you know, the Sonny's influence over everyone, it's got to be immeasurable almost. I mean,
yeah,
you know, we haven't really talked about his playing that much. He could just fucking blow hard, man. He was such a badass, powerful monster player, you know?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Colossus is not an overstatement.
Mm-mm.
Would it not be amazing? Felipe and I have spoken about this before, but like if Joe Harley in the Tone Poet series did a Sonny Rollins box
Oh
where
my God, yeah.
it had like Volume 1, Volume 2,
And
Nukes Time, and then live at the Village Vanguard.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
You
Yeah.
should do that, Joe Harley.
They should get back all those Ornette boxes that are left over, recycled,
Yeah.
recycle the paper.
Well, let's move on.
Sure, number 2, Mike. Number 2.
Number two,
Number
yeah.
2. All right, here we go. My number 2 spot is being taken by the excellent Benny Golson.
Nice.
So I recently just picked this up. I don't have many of his lead stuff. I have his discography up, so I can kind of like go through a few highlights here. But this is great. He is a complete master of his instrument. He's also an excellent arranger and composer. So I think I was really happy to place him at number 2. And then also, I think a lot of people will be familiar with this, but he is a jazz messenger and is on Monin. So one of my favorite jazz records. And another one of my favorite jazz records is Curtis Fuller's Bluesette. And he is also featured on this. So my two of my favorite jazz records, he's the tenor on. And he's also all over Argo with the Jazz Tet. He's on Contemporary. He does Benny Golson's New York Scene, which is great. He's on Riverside, The Modern Touch, which has a great cover. And then, yeah, he like goes on to make a ton of different records. So that's my number 2, Benny Golson.
And he put Lee Morgan the right track, right?
Yes, yeah, he was integral into Lee Morgan's mentorship.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. He said he's an arranger. He did arrangements for a bunch of people too, where he wasn't even playing on the records. But
yeah, oh yeah, I think he did like movie scores. I think he's pretty prolific.
And he, along with Gigi Grice, he was one of the first ones to try to unionize the players and have them, be get music rights, copyrights.
Yeah, and they also have that Groovin' with Golson. That's a good one on New Jazz, Mike.
There we go.
The one you skipped.
I didn't get it. I didn't. So the funny thing is, I didn't get that, and I didn't get the oh God, what are they? The Elvin Booker Irvins, and like those 3 records are like I should have definitely picked those up over some other ones.
Well, they'll come back.
Place
Yeah.
it back order. They're gonna ship it to you.
Yeah. Well, the other one, that Witherspoon one, the Carriage Trade one, I feel like if that's still in stock, I should pick that up because he's pretty killer.
Yeah, the Wallington.
Wallington, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
George Wallington, right?
Yeah, good one. Yeah, George Wallington. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of, another great one in that series. Well, these 2. Check these out real quick. So I almost picked these. This is Sonny. This is.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
fucking great. That's a really good record. And then this, speaking of tenors,
Yeah.
there
you go.
Coltrane, Zoot Sims, it's like all of them. It's really good.
Yeah.
I think Sonny Plays for Bread was like first or second they repressed in the series.
Yeah, it was. It was early on.
Came very early with the Lush Life.
I need to listen to all 50 of these again.
Yeah.
I don't have all 50, but what do we got? 6 left?
There's
6 or 7 left to come?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they'll do a Riverside or something in the next several years. That would be cool.
Yeah.
If we got another label with that kind of quality.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Be dope.
Great
All right,
curation.
your number 2. What's your last one, Felipe?
My last one, so it's alphabetically, so we're like W, Y, Z, so it had to be him, Wayne Shorter.
Nice.
I got some stuff like later in his career, so I picked up 173, My Dreamer.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna make it big here. Let's look at that one.
I mean, this cover by itself, just like it's everything you need, right? I like this picture here as well from the session photos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You know, that photo on the left there, was that like a cover of a record or something? I think like Wax Time may have used that to like make a bootleg
Yes.
or something like. I feel like I've seen that before.
They're thieves.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, Lee Morgan, Reginald Workman, McCartney, Wayne Shorter, Lee Morgan. It's a beautiful record. I mean, the cover itself is just, you can't stop looking at it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
He's a total innovator, right?
Yeah.
Like he's still with this too. I mean, Wayne Shorter's career is massive. I mean, he's a composer, he's a badass player. Went electric with Miles, went and did Weather Report. I mean,
you know what? Yeah, he plays with anybody, anything. You know, yeah. I think his influence is like Ron Carter, Joe Henderson. I mean, these guys, they might not have their names in the first top tier like Miles Coltrane or Louis Armstrong, but they're there. They're there. I think time will show. You know.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of Blue Note records.
Yeah, and my second one by Wayne Shorter is a record that I come back to it all the time. That's one of my dearest possessions. It's an OG of Juju.
Ooh, cool.
Beautiful.
This record is just a crazy good. In let's see who else is here. So Wayne Shorter, McCoy Tyner, Reginald Workman, and Elvin Jones, which is pretty much the same lineup as Night Dreamer, the exact same record. I'm not sure if you speak no evil, he repeats the lineup. I got to double check on that.
That is a great record as well, of course.
Yes.
Let me look who's on that one. It's Freddie Hubbard, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Elvin Jones. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a little later. Yeah, he was already.
I mean, him and Herbie really had a thing.
Yeah,
a lifelong thing. I mean, there's a record that I would recommend. It's called 1+1. It came out in '97 on Verve.
Oh yeah.
The box set. It's just him and Herbie playing together. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, throughout their career, they always like influenced each other, played along in different projects, helped each other. You know, when the VSOP came back, Wayne played with him. Wayne also, I think he stayed with Miles during the transition period, Silent Way, and and the other guys were already quitting the band. He stayed with Miles.
Oh yeah, I mean, he played on Bitches Brew and all those. Yeah, he was with Miles for over 10 years, which is probably the longest anybody was.
Yeah.
And did a shit ton of stuff with Herbie. Did stuff with Freddie. Joni Mitchell. He has got like 10 records that he played on Joni Mitchell's records.
He shows up on what is it? It's the Moncure the Third.
Demolition or
no, not that one. It's what the hell is it? Here we go.
Yeah.
This one.
Oh yeah.
Oh cool. Yeah.
Some other stuff. There's he's also been in Brazil for many recordings, late 70s, early 80s. He recorded some never released material with Elis Regina. He also played with Milton Nascimento, which is a record that easy to get, which is beautiful recording.
Yeah.
He's been all over the place, played with everybody.
I mean, he did 20 records of the Jazz Messengers,
Yeah.
like in a 4-year period. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of like Miles's second quintet with Wayne Shorter and then Tony Williams,
Mhm.
I feel like the combination of those two guys like make that whole quintet like incredible.
Well, don't forget about Herbie.
I know, like Herbie and Ron Carter. Is it Ron Carter?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're great, but I feel like the compositional direction from Tony and Wayne Shorter are really like what drive that quintet. Numero uno. Well,
Kenny G.
you guys know who I'm going to pick probably, but so
Kenny.
I've been getting into Riverside. One of the things that I've noticed, and one of the reasons why I've been so excited about Riverside is one, and actually two people in particular, Sam Jones and Jimmy Heath.
Oh, nice.
So Jimmy Heath comes up on a lot of Riverside material. He's also on other labels too during the time, but he has a really straight ahead tone. When I think of like just like hard bop, like let's do it one take style, I feel like Jimmy Heath just like hits that for me. So it's not as perfect as some of the Blue Note sessions, but it really just sounds like raw, in your face, hard bop. And so this is a lead record by him. The lineup is incredible. And then I just wanted to go through some other stuff. So this is another lead record, The Quota.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly, the lineup on this is Freddie Hubbard, Julius Watkins, Jimmy Heath, Cedar Walton, Percy Heath, and Albert Heath. So the Heath brothers, there were 3 of them, and they're all on this record, and this thing kills. This is a great Riverside. Then I have another lead record on Xanadu. So this is a later record. So for those who don't know Xanadu, it's similar to like a Pablo, where it's later. It's extremely great sounding.
Yep.
And he's on this with Barry Harris, Sam Jones, and Billy Higgins. So some guys he played with on Riverside. This is a Blue Mitchell record that he is on. It's Blue Mitchell and orchestra, and Jimmy Heath is the arranger on this. Mm-hmm. This is a really cool one. I'm usually not into that large group stuff, but it's really like a no net. I don't think it's much bigger than that at times. So even though they call it orchestra, it's got a killer lineup. So let's see: Blue Mitchell, Clark Terry, Julius Watkins, Jerome Richard on alto and flute, Jimmy Heath tenor, Pepper Adams or Pat Patrick as baritone, Wynton Kelly, Sam Jones, Albert Heath. So it's great lineup. Definitely, this one isn't particularly expensive. You probably can find this for a decent price. Highly recommend this Blue Mitchell. Plays with Sam Jones on Down Home, with just another killer lineup. He's on Julian Priester's. I think this is his debut. Keep Swinging on Riverside. All of these are on Riverside that I've been showing so far. Sam Jones, Riverside. See Jimmy Heath's right here. Blue Mitchell, Nat Adderley. So there's like a group of guys on Riverside that play on a lot of each other's records. And this is an Elmo Hope record with Jimmy Heath, Percy. So anyway, he's my number one. I've been listening to a lot of Jimmy Heath stuff. It's great. So highly recommend getting into him and getting into Riverside.
So you know why Jimmy Heath didn't join the second quintet?
Oh no, I didn't know he was part of the discussion here.
Yeah, Miles was a big fan of him.
Okay.
His parole officer wouldn't let him get out of Philly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he got convicted of selling heroin twice. So he
was a pretty messed up dude.
Well,
but I mean, he played with. He never did like 20 records with anyone, but he played with a bunch of different folks, right?
Yeah.
He did a bunch of stuff with Milt Jackson, probably because of his brother Percy, you would think, right? But he's like a tenor player, I think, because he was also really featured heavily in the Ken Burns documentary.
Yes. Yeah.
And any documentary before last year when he died.
Yeah.
He died in 2020. Any documentary you see him on a documentary.
I actually knew him through those documentaries before I knew him. Like I knew who he was as an artist. Like I would see him on Chasing Train, the Ken Burns. They would always interview him because he knew he was part of the the groups back then. So
He
he
was
knew.
still alive too. He died in 2020. He was 93.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So natural causes. That's what I want to die from. Natural causes, man. Just go to
Same.
sleep and don't wake up, bro. Very nice. That's a cool number one.
Yeah.
This guy has been my number one ever since I started listening to jazz, and he probably will always be my number one. So talking about Society Red, otherwise known as Long Tall Dexter Gordon.
Oh yeah.
So this record is really cool. Dexter. So Charlie Parker invented bebop for, if you want to call it that, for alto. Dexter did it for the tenor, 100%. He was there back in the 40s, and this record here. Let me make this big. This record is a bunch of Savoy recordings from. It's a twofer from the 70s, but it's got. So it's a bunch of Savoy stuff from like 45, 46, 47. And just some of the players on here. I mean, let's see. Bud Powell plays on some of them. Charlie Russell, Max Roach, Tad Dameron, Art Blakey, Fats Navarro's on some of it. Joe Newman on trumpet, J.J. Johnson. I mean, just everybody, right? So he started getting successful in the 40s. He played in a bunch of the big bands, and then when bebop really came down, he started doing that stuff, which is really cool. So that's where he started, and then obviously he played a bunch of Blue Note records that he led. Mike was just showing Swinging Affair, which is a great one. My favorite one from Blue Note is The Tone Poet, which we've talked about before, but it's One Flight Up.
Oh yeah,
this one's great. I'm guessing he had already went to Europe when he recorded this, because it's got him and Donald Byrd, Kenny Drew, who was over in Europe forever, and then Niels Henning, Orsted Pedersen, and Art Taylor.
Yeah.
So this one is just killer, though.
Yeah, I think this sequence, this one, Our Man in Paris, Getting Around, it's just killer stuff.
So those are. I mean, he has so many records we can talk about, but those are two cool ones. And then
the live one.
I can't find the live one, or I would have shown it.
Is that Homecoming, the live one?
Yeah, Homecoming.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome.
That's an awesome record. I think I got that one almost for free, like $5.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's from the 70s. It's great. This one is
amazing record.
73. I think I showed this on the stream last week. Jackie McLean, Dexter Gordon. This was on Steeplechase version there. This is just killer. I cannot wait to get the other volume of it. But it was recorded at the Montmartre Club in Copenhagen, which is just like where he lived for a decade, basically, through the 60s, right? And he played there all the time with all kinds of folks. So there's a ton of Steeplechase records he played on. Unfortunately, Dexter had problems with drugs, but he also had problems with record company owners. Like the Savoy guy was a piece of shit to everyone. He just screwed him. The Steeplechase guy kind of screwed him after he got back. He had to go back and record a bunch of shit for him. But anyway, so that's a good one. And then this was when he was in Europe, and then Homecoming that we talked about would have been when he came back. And then this one is from 75. This is a neat record you can get for like $2 probably. It's Tangerine on Prestige.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who's on this one. Let me look real quick. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard a bad Dexter record, but this one's got Dexter, the Thad and Hank Jones, Stanley Clark on bass, and Louis Hayes on drums.
Nice.
And that's for part of it. And the other part's got him with Cedar Walton, Buster Williams, and Billy Higgins. So
nice.
I like that one. Yeah, Dexter's the shit. He's my favorite.
That's pretty nice. Yeah. I didn't pick any of his stuff because I knew it was gonna come, and you had a good collection there, Dexter Gordon.
Yeah, I need more. I mean, I would like to have every record he was ever on, honestly.
Yeah, and a side note, curiosity, he was one of the first jazz musicians to be aware of how important it is to be nicely dressed.
Oh yeah, he cared about that, man. You know the story, right, with Miles?
Yeah.
Miles came up and wanted to hang out with him, and he's like, "Man, you got to get out of here. You're just like shit. What are you wearing? You're like an idiot, you know." And it pissed off Miles, but then he came back later and he was dressed up. So
yeah. All right, so that's our top 5.
Right? Is anybody else left? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. So I have like an honorable mentions list.
Well, don't forget about Tier 0, bro.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We forget honorable mentions. Let's talk about the mention.
We'll talk
Yes.
about the mention. Yeah. So we all agreed that there's one person that's obviously on top. Who is that, Mike? John Coltrane. Yeah, of course.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We put him above everybody else because his kind of popularity and musical impact was so great that we just figured we would just talk about him kind of separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say about John Coltrane? I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Well, it's innovation, right? Like, once he got his shit together and got clean, he just spent the rest of his life pushing the music forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, he was the guy. I mean, he was a great tenor player, but let's not forget after the kind of blew all those sessions, he also started playing baritone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By Miles' suggestion, according to Miles. And he said practicing on that really brought him to a new level, to experiment new sounds. And I think I didn't pick any of his Atlantic records to show. I think you guys have plenty to show. But I picked two by Coltrane that I think show two different phases of his career. And which I kind of prefer the early stuff. I think his late stuff is great. His genius might have a whole idea behind it, but musically, to my taste, it's not like a very pleasing thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be really on the mood to listen to that stuff.
Right.
And I don't say as a criticism, just as a finding. I mean, I don't want to sit on my couch, have a scotch, and listen to, some really intense music. Maybe I want, but mostly I want to listen to soft uh, stuff by him, like his record Duck Ellington, which is phenomenal. His ballads, his My Favorite Things, things like that. But I think the record has a really good mixture of everything, and I think that's where he perhaps figured out who he was, what he wanted, everything. Right? It's Blue Train.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? I think Blue Train is like this dot punctual at this point in time. His only Blue Note record. That was the magic session. Everything happening there. That's amazing music, amazing musicians. Everybody was so prepared into it. It's just like one of those, only events in time.
Who's the bass and drummer on Blue Train?
So it's Paul Chambers and let me just get it. Yeah, Philly Joe.
Philly Joe. That's
What's
incredible.
your favorite rhythm section guys on Blue Note, basically, right? Like,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the Blue Train. And I would say my second favorite Coltrane record, which has been having really heavy rotation recently because of the new year, is a test record. I love the sound of the record. I like the vocals. I like everything about this record. Is the Johnny Hartman.
Oh yeah.
I need to listen to that more. I've only listened to it like twice.
And this is so well mastered. I think the stereo beats the mono. I have a Super Audio CD that has a mono and a stereo on the same one. The stereo has always been my favorite, and this is amazing. This is the tone here is just like sucks you into the recording. It feels like you're there with them. It's so intimate, personal, and I think Coltrane's tone here is just perfection. It's better than ballads. I like his tone here better than in ballads. And
That's pretty awesome. That's cool.
And the Duke Ellington. Yeah, Chris, give it another listen.
Oh well.
More, just you're gonna dive into it.
You're right, though. That Duke Ellington record with him and Duke Ellington on Impulse is really good. All that Atlantic stuff is cool. I mean, Giant Steps is awesome.
Ole.
Coltrane, yeah, Ole's good. Coltrane plays blues, though it's called something like that.
Coltrane plays the blues. Coltrane jazz.
Coltrane jazz is amazing. But then a couple I wanted to show real quick. I like two. This one I don't like it as much as the other one, but this was in the Prestige series too. It was really good with Fred Garland Trio, right? But this one, man, was for me a highlight of the whole series. He doesn't lead this one, but it might as well be his record. So this quintet record with Red Garland, Coltrane, Bird, Joyner, and Art Taylor, like really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my Coltrane is outside, but what I do have here is when he was part of Miles' quintet, and I just wanted to shout out "Relaxing," the song "Olio," because the handoff from Miles's first solo to when John Coltrane takes it over is one of my favorite like moments in jazz.
Nice.
It is an excellent song, so highly recommend checking out "Olio." This version, "Olio," is also on the what is it? The one that we showed earlier, Bag's Groove.
Mhm.
So check out this one. I think this one is the better version. So
Yeah.
So with that said, let's go through our quick honorable mention list. So I was kind of logging all different artists as we were kind of discussing before the video. So I'll just go through honorable mentions. So Booker Ervin, he's got some great stuff on Candid and Prestige.
Yep.
Lucky Thompson, who doesn't have that many lead records, but putting him out there. There's Ike Quebec, we mentioned. Archie Shepp, 4 for Train, I think was his debut on Impulse. And then he kind of really took, I guess, avant-garde free jazz, like politically infused jazz, and really became one of the top guys for that. There's Paul Gonzalez. He has some stuff on Jazzland. He's kind of an older guy, right?
Closing guy, yeah.
With Duke.
Yep.
We Lester Young.
Okay, so let's pause there, right? Like,
it's called the president for a reason.
well, I mean, so like the reason I wanted to pause there is Lester Young's in the top 5 of any top 5, top 10 period, right? But that's why we said this is what we're the top 5 for us right now. Lester Young's influence is unmatchable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Coleman Hawkins, who we mentioned. Did Chris, you pick Coleman?
No, Felipe did.
Felipe did. Okay. Yusuf Lateef. I didn't consider Yusuf because he's kind of a multi-instrumentalist. But he's there. We got Sam Rivers, Nathan Davis,
McGee,
Ben Webster.
Ben Webster's another huge one.
Yeah.
Zoot Sims, which he had some great stuff. I have this Clifford Brown with Zoot Sims on Pacific, and this is a killer session. So Zoot has some cool stuff. But Zoot recorded a lot. I feel like he was everywhere.
I think Charles Lloyd deserves to be on the list too. I like him a lot. I thought about picking him.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Charles Lloyd.
What about Benny Mobley? Did he play tenor? Or?
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure.
Gotta check. And he was super important as well.
I mean, yeah. The point is, there's so many freaking great tenor players. Picking 5 is hard.
Yeah.
So many.
And just to round it out, Stan Getz, Stanley Tarantine, and Al Cohn.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's 50 more we're missing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right. Well, let us know what you think. Who are your top 5 favorite tenor sax players? Let us know what you think about our selections. And guys, you have any final thoughts?
No, just thanks for watching.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right.
Watching.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.